Hello, everyone. How's everybody doing? Today, we have with us the author of the books, The Love Bite and The Dark Side of Cupid. These books talk about the alien interference in human life and relationships. And the author's name is Eve Lorgen. Welcome, Lorgen. How are you?
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here with you. And I look forward to talking to you because you live in an area very near where we did a lot of investigations. So,
Great, great.
no,
I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm so happy that you wanted to do this interview. And hopefully, we can do another interview, but live, where my subscribers and my followers they can ask you questions because I know they have a lot of questions. So we're gonna head right into it. So we're gonna start from the beginning.
okay.
How can you tell us a little bit about yourself? What inspired you to write the books? What or when did you discover the agenda of these aliens? And we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, I don't think I discovered the overall agenda or what I believed it is or could be until many years after did the support group. I started, I think, in 1996 ish. But I knew that I had alien abduction experiences in my life based on how they were described, mostly by Bud Hopkins and a lot of the other authors of that time. It's just that I didn't have a full memory of everything. It was just, bits and pieces. So I was at first a biochemist in my first career and then decided to study Oriental medicine and then ultimately became a counselor that focused on marriage and family dynamics. So mostly family systems, psychology, and relationships and trauma was my focus. And I really wanted to do that because I knew that there was a subpopulation who have had what I call anomalous trauma, which includes like the alien abduction, visitations, sightings, and other paranormal things that didn't fit into some of the other categories in the classical psychology field. And I wanted to do more and find out more. And so really that kind of launched my ability to study this phenomena more as a therapist and a researcher kind of at the same time. But I really got a lot of my own mentorship in the beginning, not only with my colleague James Bartley and another one that I went to school with, but the late Dr. Carla Turner and Barbara Bartholic, who was the one who did the regression hypnotherapy on a lot of the people that Carla did her books on, and Carla and her family. So we got a lot of inside information by really talking with Barbara Bartholic over the years, and especially after Dr. Carla Turner died of breast cancer in 1996, January, we decided, okay, we really need to do a support group. Her work is so important. The reason why we came together is because the work that she brought out in San Diego at the time in 1995, that James Bartley helped get her at a conference, was because we were having experiences very similar to what she talked about in her book called Taken, which is about my labs, and then The Masquerade of Angels, which is really the whole biography of the case of Ted Rice, who you were on his show actually not long ago, and I was too. And so that one blew everything wide open in a way that brought so much controversy, at the time and still really today. So
Yeah.
they were the ones who really inspired me because I thought, oh, there's really something here that Dr. Carla Turner talked about, because I had memories that were like similar and I just thought they were just dreams. And then, the big balm really was at the time we were starting our support group, 1996 ish, we were really getting involved. And then four of us in the group, we basically got hit over the head by an alien love bite, and all of us at the same time were having like these love obsessions with another person who was like another abductee. I think most of us who had it was like another person who also had alien encounter histories.
Okay.
So, and then I didn't really know until I talked to Barbie. It's like, oh, is that what is going on? And so then, went into this whole drama of the whole love bite thing. And as a personal, I mean, I experienced it too, and James did, and many other people. And then this is what launched. I have to study this more. This isn't just about, quote, how when aliens take people, and you hear the classical History Channel things where, they take them on a medical table or they take them off the road and they have missing time and they do these, genital or, ovum samples or whatever, or show them a star system map or whatever it is.
Or
These,
messages also.
yeah,
They
or
give.
messages. of, oh, you'll be an ambassador for us, or whatever the story is. But behind the scenes, there was much more going on. And we started talking to each other in these groups. And we're like, wait a minute, that happened to you also when you were in school, and they did these funny tests. And are you having dreams about this? And like, yeah, they put me together with somebody else who was on the craft. And then I saw them and they remembered the experience. And so pretty soon we got much more information that was probably not considered credible. But at the same time, we were experiencing these things, and we could even have mutually shared dreams that showed that we're remembering the same thing in some altered state of consciousness, or another reality, or on a craft, or an underground base, or in another capacity. So that's what got me started. And not only that, though, is like when we wanted to get to the bottom of our experiences. Maybe we wanted to go to a support group, or meet a hypnotherapist, or go to a conference. Then all this weird shenanigans would go on, where it would be like, the aliens or somebody else didn't want us to meet someone or to talk to a group. And then we'd have like super bad dreams, or an abduction, and then we'd get sick, or the spouse would suddenly start fights with you, or you get in a car accident, or what we called it detracting, destruction, I don't know, interferences, basically. So they would want to stop us from opening up and really talking about the other things going on. So I became to know this is interference, alien interference, but also within our relationships and our families and the people they would set us up with, and all these, like, it seemed like they were testing us sometimes. But but what Bard learned from Barbie, is that it's not just testing. I think they're really just doing more of a emotional harvesting for the most part, in some of these case histories that are in the Love Bite, for sure. So you had mentioned something, so I'm just going to pause and let you start where maybe you want to hear a little bit more about
Yeah.
some.
I'll ask you the questions. We can start about talking about the first book that I was reading, and I'm going to show you the book so people can see. This is the first book we're going to talk about. It's called The Love Bite. And if you can tell us, what is this book about?
Oh, goodness. Oh, well, that's the first one, alien interference in human love relationships, where interference really means, well, it could be an orchestration of some kind of love relationship bond between two people that is orchestrated and engineered by these, quote, different kinds of ETs and aliens. So that's one thing. And then they can also interfere or break up relationships they don't want an abductee to have with somebody else. And there was cases in there like, why won't they want us to be with certain people and they only want us to be with others, or match us with maybe people who we've had children with, and then they take the kids. It's like this multi-generational alien abduction study of some sort. And then with the military, of course, these were also demonstrated in the book, where it seemed to be another reason why they might put two people together outside of their marriage partner that they were even married to, and that the other partner was also, let's say, a MILAB, or a military alien abductee, who they would want to bond together, so when they went on operations together, they were more effective as a team, and a twinned tantric sex bond pair.
Can you tell us what does my love mean for the people that don't know?
That, I think it was started with Carla Turner, actually, and Dr. Helmut Lammer, who wrote a book about not only people they knew they were having alien abductions. That's what we called them in the early days. But hey, if they're happening against your will and you can't control it, and there is a physical component, we just called them abductions. Now they say, well, I'm an experiencer, but really that may have a different connotation. So anyway, Helmut Lammer, he was a researcher from Austria who wrote a book himself called My Labs. And so the word actually started out as military abductee, or military and alien abductions. So it's a contracted word, military and abductions put together. So in my view, it was it's not just military abductions. It means that you're a classic alien abductee with a history who's had the aliens take you all throughout your life. And then the military are also either interfering or interrogating or working with the aliens, or also working with the abductees in a sheep-dipped project because of their abductee status and their capabilities as operatives in some secret space program, for example, or some kind of weird MK Ultra, but it's also aligned with this deep black op alien alliances with some deep, government agency kind of thing. So there's a lot of spooky, woo woo kind of stuff.
So who are these aliens?
Um,
Do we know, or they're different, or
there's lots of different ones. The classical ones we hear about more than anything else are like the alien grays, who are maybe the small ones, less than 5 feet tall. Then you might have the tall grays. You might have the tall whites. Many different kinds of reptilian, sauroid, or dinosaur-looking beings, or alligator-headed beings, or the small T-Rex type of beings. And there's a case in the Love Bite with Angelina where she had we used to call them baby Godzillas because, we just joke, but it's like a T-Rex. So it's not real tall, but it has like this, dinosaur-y kind of face and a funny Barney-like belly. But they're mean and they have like short little arms, but they're strongly telepathic and can be mean, but they can also be playful. So in fact, in the Love Bite book, in the case of Angelina, one of her daughters it was like a portal in the bedroom closet. Okay. And then this particular type of T-Rex baby Godzilla would come out in and out of this portal interdimensionally and then pop in and then actually physically be present with the girl in her room. And then it would play with her toys. And so she thought it was like her little friend. And then she would like lay out her toys for the dinosaur alien that would come in. And she even left him like pizza and like sandwiches and stuff and claimed that, it took it and ate it. And it would like make noises with these little fake telephone games for little kids. So that actually happened in Apple Valley, mind you. So
wow.
that was just another type. But there's many different ones that seem to be acting under this big umbrella, even within one person's experience. So they might see like a reptilian, a certain type a lot, and then see the grays, and then, the military humans or the baby Godzillas. And then others may have more of the insectoid mantis as their primary alien handler. And those are all insectoids. And then the Nordic types or the cyborg Nordics and the Orus Raw beings are less likely reported, but they're like a bird type that has like a long beak, these funny little things on their shoulder. And it's a higher hierarchy type of being that might stay more in the background.
Are those like the ones that Corey Good talks about, the bird-looking ones? Do you know about Corey Good? I'm sure you know about Corey Good because you interviewed.
No, I don't think it's sorry. I don't think it's the avians, but the ones that I found out through Dr. Corrado Malanga of Italy, who was like a 25, 30-year researcher of alien abductions. And he's an organic chemist at Pisa University. So he did this elaborate study with many abductees, hypnotic regressions, and also an alien hierarchy of the different types that would show up, a lot with Italian people, but also people all over the world. Yes. But he did this hierarchy assessment of the different ETs, and the ones that were like higher on the hierarchy were these beings he called that look like Orus Ra or the ancient Egyptian kind of ET. So it was like a bird type, but almost like the black eyes and the nose. And then he did some pictures that are on my website. And then the funny little things on their shoulders that look like wings, like where wings were. It's really unusual type, and they're very tall and they look very bird-like.
Yeah.
So there's different ones that are reported, and I believe there's a shape-shifting capability with many of them, so that they may make you see sometimes like in your third eye, like how when you have vision in your mind's eye.
Yes.
They could make you see something in your mind's eye that would be appropriate for how they can, like, I don't know, project what they want you to see. But sometimes if this happened actually in an abduction in my house years ago, where I had a visiting relative who was like 12-year-old boy. So I don't know if he knew much about aliens or anything, but they happened to pop in, when I was there, and he was staying with my son in his bedroom. And what I saw was a short being that didn't even look like a gray. And it was like just a short with vivid blue-green eyes and kind of like a mean, angry, almost fairy-like leprechaun kind of demeanor. But then when they came through the house and walked down the hall, because there was a portal like at a certain place in the house, when they walked down the hall towards my bedroom, the cousin saw them as little men with baseball caps and sunglasses. So what he was really seeing was like a type of alien gray, like instead of
Yeah.
he's in their sunglasses, but they're really, and then so depending on how our mind can handle what we see, we might perceive it differently, but they were still visitors who came the same night, you know, in the same location.
That's interesting that you say about the portals, that you had a portal at your house.
Yeah.
This other girl had a portal at her house. So
Yeah.
do you think they create the portals, or how does that happen? Do you know?
Oh, that's a good reason. I think they're associated with people as well as location. So if they open up a portal in a certain location, it becomes maybe a weak spot that it would be like it would always be in that one spot where they would come in and out.
Yes.
So, but
Just
what's
like the ghosts
interesting
that
is,
you mentioned, like the ghosts where they show up they're in somebody's house and they're there, and everybody just comes in or goes in and out.
yeah. In fact, one time I saw the portal. It was really weird how it happened. I saw it like a light that was down from the ceiling, and then like in a circular thing that was bright white. And then when I became aware that they were there, they hurried up and closed it. When they closed it, the circle of light, like on the bottom of the floor, went like that. So it had this diameter of light, and then it went to a point, and then it went straight
Yeah.
up. So it's like they must come down, and then it's really weird how they did
Like an
it.
elevator kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah. It was,
Like beam me up, Scotty.
there's different things that are reported. I mean, sometimes I've heard the gal talk about how it would be like a black square that would open up in her living room, literally like this black square. And then inside of it would be like the other reality. So basically, walk through this black square kind of thing. And then it would be like the military underground base with like the lab coat people walking around. And so it would just go from one reality into the next kind of thing.
Like a dimension, different
This,
dimension. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah.
All right, that's very interesting. Where do they come from? Do we know? Do they come from different realities or different dimensions, different planets?
Well, I think definitely interdimensional and probably underground and underworld, maybe. Some people think they come from other star systems, and I really don't know. But with the more of the testimonies that have come out really since since a lot of the early secret space programs, for example, the Mars Colony Corporation, where people were being taken to Mars or the Luna base, which is, the moon and Mars, and different portals on Earth to Mars or the moon.
Yeah.
So we know that at least there's a lot of testimonies that report that there are other locations where they take jump gates, or I don't know. Sometimes they take craft, and I think they call them jump gates when they're larger.
Yeah,
Um,
jump gates or
yeah,
jump rooms where they take you to our jump room.
yeah,
I know I interviewed Tony Rodriguez.
really, okay,
Yes, yeah, we're very good friends. So he's a very good friend of mine. And I interviewed him, and he told me that they would take him to the jump room or the jump where the portal is at to take him to the moon. They took him to Sirius. They took him to
yeah.
different places, but it was in New Mexico, the Dulce base. That
Oh, okay,
where
yeah,
it appeared that it was there.
uh,
It was in the Dulce base, but kind of like outside. There was a building. He recently went to investigate the place.
yeah. I saw his video where he. Well, I don't know if it was Dulce, but he went where he remembered, and it was like chills because it was the place, and he did remember, and it was exactly right. So
Yeah,
that tells you something that these things are going on, and people are
yeah.
wanting to hide it and make these people crazy. It's. I'm glad more people have come out actually to tell.
Yeah, I love talking to him because he is looking for the evidence, or to show the evidence, like to show people that, hey, you know what, this really happened. This is not, I'm just not making this up. Just like Randy Kramer.
Yeah,
I was watching or reading one of your interviews with him.
yeah, it was a long time
Oh,
ago.
experience. Yeah, that was a long time ago. It was like in 1996, I think. Or
Yeah, I mean, I remember Michael Relf was the one of the earlier ones who came out with the Mars, but I don't know if he had the 20 and back kind of thing. And I remember him telling me that, well, he did a really long deprogramming and deliverance way of getting memories back, which, and he kind of was someone that they didn't, because he used a Christian approach, and also a approach that his wife actually helped him with. He didn't really jive with a lot of the newer ones coming out, but he did, like, they would have portals, what they would, I guess they would do like a telepathic cue, what we call it, telepathic signal or telepathic message that's like a cue. Yeah. And then would activate the alter personality that would respond to that cue. And then that alter basically takes over the body. The portal opens up in the room, and then that alter that heard the cue switches and goes right through the portal, and then they end up in different locations physically.
Wow. So they have the password. I mean, because our bodies is an organic computer. So they hear the password, and then they come in, and then they take them physically.
Yeah, and I think they do it astrally too, because that's been experienced by many, where all you have to do is hear the telepathic trigger cue that a part of you is already telepathic and can respond, and then be an immediate astral out of the body thing with the astral alter to the other reality. And it could be transfer of consciousness kind of stuff going on with those kinds of cases. So that's why it's not always like a black and white physical thing. But I'm sure you've heard about that too. I don't know if I talked about that so much in the first book.
About Randy Kramer, the physical.
Well, most of the things in the Love Bite were people who already had usually experiences throughout their childhood of alien abductions and MyLabs, or one or the other. And
that's what I was wondering. When I was reading your book, I was just freshening up on the first book, The Love Bite. And what really interested me was the story about Mia and the FBI agent.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And also Ted Rice, obviously. Ted Rice is one of my favorites, because and then you chose that one as Ted Rice as your first story.
I did. I was like a bomb, like, woo, when you get to see that one with the cloning and everything. It probably scared the crap out of people. I think a lot of people don't believe because it seems so out of the ordinary, but much later now we're hearing things from people. It's just that Barbara Bartholick was so good at what she did, and Ted happened to be one of those phenomenal people who was able to get memory. And it took a while, like when something like that happens and it's so traumatic and it's actually out of your, like for him at the time he experienced it, people didn't even know about that stuff. So there was no concept for so much of what he experienced. So
can we talk about Ted Rice, his story? What happened with him?
What's
his story?
Well, I actually summarized the experience that I wanted to focus on that demonstrated the alien love bite. Yes. Although there was much more within that synopsis of what I did with The Masquerade of Angels, which is really his whole story. Actually, it was like a part one. They were actually going to do a sequel to that. So what was so good about Ted's case is that it was a demonstration of definitely a physical event that took place. Let's say the love bitey thing. It started, I think, when he was 14, and he was bonded with another girl that he went to school with in the same neighborhood. Her name was Jill.
For the people that don't know about the love bite experiences, let's tell them briefly what is the love bite, so they can kind of what we're talking about. Because me and you, we know. Followers, they know, but there's going to be like new people that don't know what we're talking about. So they're going to say,
no, it's a crazy name. Somebody actually made it up in the San Francisco Bay Area, and it was just one of those.
Very interesting. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And it wasn't me who made it up, but me and Barbie were like, we just call it the love bite or the alien love bite. So if someone knows that they've been taken all their life, usually since childhood, let's say the alien grays, to make it simple, and they take them several times throughout their life, and medical experiments, different things that they do, sometimes seemingly training them to do different things, like got all kinds of things like moving objects with your mind and weird shit. But they would bond people sometimes as children, and then like as a child or maybe as a teenager, maybe in your 20s, so that by your 30s, when you meet the person that you were pre-bonded with, but you have kind of like amnesia about it, but when you meet them, it's like this deja vu of like feeling like you've known them before, an instant love and deja vu and psychic connection. So, and then omens and synchronicities, or an increase in paranormal activity, or telepathic connections with that love bite partner that you've been bonded to before, but maybe you don't remember. But it's like, man, you feel like you've made love to them before and your body knows it, but you don't know how or why. And you just know everything about them. And you could like have remote viewing with them and then be completely accurate about this person. Whereas like you've never done that before. It's like, where the hell is this coming from?
Or
And
they
then,
feel each other, or they telepathically
oh,
talk.
yeah,
Hmm.
totally. It's
Yes.
amazing. And you could feel what they're feeling and thinking, and like you can see in your mind's eye what they're seeing. Like you're living inside of them and you see what they're experiencing and you feel it in your body. And then there's other things that have happened, and I think I mentioned it in Love Bite, but it's when someone is so bonded and connected on these levels. It's like sometimes we know that they've both been taken, let's say physically, and they both maybe meet on a craft or in another location, maybe an underground base, and then they might have sex or some kind of bonding connection in those quote abduction events. So that's one level. Other levels that happen, which is really weird, are more like the astral unions that you can have with someone that feel very real. And it's like there's a word for it that Dr. Ingo Swann, who was like a famous remote viewer, he called it telesthesia. And so what that is when you have like a real concrete, palpable energy connection with another person, so that, let's say they're fantasizing about like having sex with you or something, and they're like another, like across the country or something, and then you're in bed at the same time or whatever. And then when they're imagining this, the connection is so strong energetically. It's like you feel them touch
Hmm.
you. It's like you feel them making love to you right there, or breathing next to you, or
It's
you
like
hear them
feeling.
and the pillows moving, and like it's almost like they could manifest or bilocate. Like I've had people report where they actually had physical evidence coming back from just what felt like an astral union, and then come back with the physical evidence that they had sex, and
Wow.
they really didn't physically go anywhere. And so things like that, where they have this strong energetic connection through sexual and love, and because it's the strongest connection. And I
It is
think
the
they're just
emotion, the emotional,
yeah,
emotional feeling. And
yeah,
then what's interesting is that most of these people, or all of them, I would say, they're psychic. They
yeah.
have all this extra. I don't know if they've been manipulated since birth, or who do they work with? These aliens.
Yeah.
How are they chosen? Do you know?
That's a good. Uh, I've thought about that. Some people think it is genetic or a bloodline thing, and that they might want to use people for their own reasons. And it could be, they have a capability that they want to utilize. Like in the military abduction end of it, there seems to be more evidence that we would say, well, they want this person because for 3 generations in their family, they had superior athletic ability. They all had a telepathic, extremely intuitive or psychic ability, and they had the ability to dissociate, or they were very, very intelligent, or they were musicians, or they
Well,
were like good military operatives, because in 3 generations or whatever, they were like in military generals or something. So sometimes it's because of a genetic quality that they want to use in a MyLab capacity, as a basically it's an asset under mind control for a deep black ops stuff that's working with alien technologies, maybe.
hmm,
So
like the
that
super soldiers, yeah, like the super soldiers, mostly all of them, their family are in the military, and then they follow the same path. And then when I was reading the Mia case with Jordan, I was reading the letter, and I was telling you previously before we started recording that that is so I want to say common, because the love bite that a lot of people have had, and my love bite that I had, it really it really struck a string on me because it was very similar to mine. Where Jordan wrote a letter to Mia and said, "You know what? I am a result of a
Yes.
genetic intervention."
Yeah. Yeah.
And most of these super soldiers, these people that the love bite, it's really. I'm thinking maybe we are. I don't want to call it chosen because I don't know if it's chosen or not, but they do manipulate the people or interfere with the people that have been genetically
Oh,
manipulated.
yeah, for sure. They do. Yeah.
That
They follow them along because they're following along the experiment. So, yeah,
so,
they definitely see that.
and
Uh,
I'm thinking that maybe all of the people that they have under their interference, maybe they have been interfered since birth or before birth.
oh, yes. Yeah. And I
And
think that some of
then
them,
they're like, okay, well, we're gonna connect this one with this one,
yeah.
and blah, blah, blah. And
Yeah.
then
They could be augmented or, I mean, well, in fact, in the Mia FBI agent case, he was actually originally sent by his handlers, the FBI that he was working for, and he was probably in his mid 30s, like, and so
mhm.
he was sent to neutralize this woman because of the UFO group that she was getting together for discussions, and they knew that she was an abductee, and they believed she was a hybrid. Okay, they knew that their higher ups like, oh, she didn't even know that probably. So why would they want to send in to neutralize someone? Doesn't mean to kill them, but to throw them off the track so they really wouldn't get either too much attention to themselves or attention that opens up information about this phenomena that more than what they would want the public to know.
Exactly, because once you're in the love bite, then your course that you were taking, let's say I open up my YouTube channel and I am going head on.
Yeah.
Then, oops, all of a sudden somebody comes along and I'm like, whoa. And
Yep.
then I stop because why I am too focused on this other stuff, on my emotions, on my love.
It becomes
I'm
an
on my,
obsession. It's
yeah,
definitely like,
it is an obsession and it's
yeah,
so strong, and then you're off course. You're like
yeah,
you can't even think about anything else.
yeah. That
All you're
happened to
thinking
me
about is,
too.
yeah.
Like you only know it like in hindsight when in hindsight, I was actually doing a lot of recovery work for trauma, where I was practicing not only with doing shadow work with hypnotherapy, doing post hypnotic suggestions to, okay, I wanted to get to the memories, right? I wanted to find out what happened during amnesia in my childhood with aliens, whatever. And
Mhm.
some stuff was actually starting to come up within lucid dream hypnotic. I was doing post hypnotic suggestions at night. And then could often go into a lucid dream and then use that as an opportunity to basically ask my subconscious mind or connect with deeper parts of myself to get to memories. And so I was getting actually too close. And so that's when I got hit over the head with a major love bite. Even though I was doing the support group, but that was like, well, then that really threw me into an entire path of research, but that really well, you know what it's like. It threw me into like, I never felt this way about anyone in my entire life, and I was like bummed out because how come I didn't feel that way about my husband at the time, and I
Exactly.
just never
I
felt so
too.
strong. And yeah, I'm sure we were pre-bonded with the one that I was with, and I did find out later we had a past life connection. But I had actually wanted to go see Barbara Bartholick, to do a regression to find out how and why I was being set up, because I think I knew the military were involved because I had a
Yeah.
sense that spooky agencies were
I,
involved. And then
yeah.
they threatened me with one of these, I just call it a type of lucid dream abduction or dream hack of some sort, where they were interrogating me and warning me not to go, or, threats basically. And it,
Well, yeah, the same thing that has happened to me. I mean, in the dreams, that's where I'm working. I'm working all the time. I'm doing. I know I'm military. I'm in my lab because I'm doing remote viewing. I'm working with them. I'm always a soldier, but I'm usually a man in this.
that's interesting. Ah,
Yeah, I'm usually a man. Well, I'm a man when I need to be a man, but mostly the stuff that I do is for a man, a soldier.
oh, wow.
And when I need to be a nurse, I'm usually a nurse or I'm a teacher, and I'm teaching kids, I'm teaching children, or I'm learning something, helping, rescuing kids,
Wow.
taking kids. I mean, it's really, really interesting. My case, my case. I've discovered a lot of things, but anyways, I don't know if we talked about Ted's story completely. No, we didn't, because we didn't say how his love bite
Yeah,
came about.
I think in his case, when he was taken with Jill, who was the 14-year-old girl that he actually went to school with, who was probably junior high. I don't even know if they were in high school yet, but he didn't really, have anything for her. But when they bonded them together, it was a alien gray that did this. But initially, his observation of these beings, he thought they were angels putting them together. But
Mhm.
as he got more lucid in his hypnotic regressions, realized no, it's an alien gray that used some kind of instrument to do some kind of heart weaving essence. And he talked about this, I think, on his show as well in more detail, that it really was some kind of energetic essence being put into his heart chakra from Jill, but it wasn't reversed. So the moment that energetic essence was put and weaved into his heart chakra energy field, he felt immediately like unconditional love for her, as if their souls were merged. And I don't know if the aliens said that, like your souls are now merged, something like that, after that happened. And then it was like instant, not just a love obsession, unconditional love, but it was a psychic connection of, knowing what they're feeling like, and just being so psychically connected. And
Yes.
but it didn't work out. She didn't feel the same way, and it created this whole relationship
Okay.
dynamic of a basically a carrot being dangled and unconsummated
Mhm.
yearning and unrequited love, which was
Yeah.
classic for the love bite. And then as if she was being switched off at a, maybe she got more switched off, and then he's still like feeling all this connection. And that happens. That's like they'll switch off one person
Yes.
and then leave the other one pining away, or
And
they'll switch you off and then set you up with someone else while the other person's pining away. And they could do all kinds of little
it's just all this interference and this manipulation. Well, I have my own theory. I don't know if you know about Max Pierce.
mhm.
Yeah, okay. Did you interview him?
We emailed many times. I don't know if we
Mhm.
talked like in the early days when he was first coming out.
Yeah.
I don't remember because I think we just emailed a bunch of times, and then
Yeah.
he went public and learned so much more, and he became very
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah, he
yeah.
was great. Now I know why he was, what happened. But I don't know if it was him or it was somebody else. But I just have this theory where I've seen so many shows where they just or the super soldiers. Yeah, yeah, it was him. He mentioned the super soldiers. They, or not the super soldiers, but they get the train the women to be let's say to get information from a subject,
Mhm.
but by means of sex.
Oh
When,
yeah. Yeah.
when they connect energetically and they bond,
Mhm.
that's where the
It's a telepathic transfer. Yeah, I
yeah.
know. That's where they would use a lot of
Yeah,
women to actually download information from a male
exactly.
John, so to speak, and then you're tasked to basically just bond with them, and then you get a download of complete telepathic knowing what's in their mind, and then you report it.
Mhm.
And they can do this through
Once
some
you do
kind
that, yeah,
of connection. Yeah.
yeah, and that is very because we're an organic computer. So when we connect, we transfer the information, and nobody knows.
Yeah,
That is
there's no
that
control.
is very, yeah, that's very smart because
Yeah.
nobody knows. And then once they have sex and they connect, then they take the information and their handler or whoever, or sometimes they connect you with a machine where it takes the
Ah,
download.
wow.
Yeah, that's what he was saying. So I'm like, oh, that's why they do. Then maybe that's why they do the love bite thing,
Yeah.
and they
And
connect you
yeah.
with different people that are, and I'm getting the name, uh, you're a mule, like you're a mule and you just get information.
Yeah.
You're a
Yeah.
mule, like, you know, give and gather information.
Yeah.
And I've noticed that they always want the love bites. One of them, or if not the two of them, they want them alone. They don't want you to have a partner.
Oh, no, they don't. In fact, sometimes if it's like I remember we noticed this with some who had, reptilian handlers, right? They would
Mhm.
hate it when they would try to pull them away from dating or their marriage partner, or whatever. They would be jealous and they want them to be single so that they could have them all to themselves. And that's kind
Yeah,
of a bummer. It's
I was thinking it was jealousy, but no, it's not jealousy. It's because they want you to go and get information from somebody else. And if you're in a relationship, you're going to say, no, you're in love and you're not going to want to be going around with anybody else. You know what I mean? So I'm thinking that's why they do that. So is there a way out? And we can come out,
yeah.
we can talk about the dark side of Cupid. And
Okay. Yeah.
that's where this is gonna go to,
Yeah.
like how does one find out if they have a love bite experience?
Well, let's say the alien love bite, there would be more evidence of having had multiple alien visitations, encounters, abductions, and then dramatic love obsessions that carry a particular dynamic that usually is like what was in the love bite. I mean, a lot of it is like a narcissistic kind of cycle. But
Yeah.
in the Dark Side of Cupid, what was different about it is that not everybody who reported an experience with something they thought was like a love bite or a false twin flame kind of thing, they weren't necessarily people who identified as being an abductee or a MILAB, but they had an experience very similar with a partner that was either hosted by, let's say, a reptilian, for example, to make it simple, or there was a third party entity that was manipulating the couple in different ways to
Mm.
either orchestrate or mess things up or to break them up. And it was very prominent that there was another vampiristic quality of another being interfering that created this energy vampirism kind of dynamic and an unhealthy relationship, but a lot of paranormal activity and things that suggested this is not just a regular like narcissistic abuse relationship. It's
Yeah.
much more. There's more. We're more like energy vampires, you
Yeah,
know.
that's what I was gonna say. Narcissist, like a narcissist, because I don't know if it happened to you, but my relationship, my marriage, it was almost the same way. Like being married to a narcissist, and you don't realize it until later, and you're like, oh. And I used to do this. I knew he was possessed by something sometimes.
Wow.
So I would be like, I would talk to the entity that was,
Oh, really? Oh
yeah.
my God.
Let's say if he wanted to fight with me, I would just talk to mentally, telepathically. I would talk to the being, and I would
Really?
no, get out of here. You're not welcome here, and it would stop. So
Wow.
it's amazing. It's amazing to get to know like your life, to get to know yourself, and to get to know your partner, and to get to have the cues and the let's say you'll know the switch. Like you feel it. I would see it in his eyes.
Or you could feel it like, yeah,
I
like,
could feel it, and I would be like, "No, this is not my husband. Get out." And I would tell it, but telepathically. Like my husband would want to, well, ex-husband, he would want to fight with me, and I would be like just quiet, and he would be so pissed, and I would start immediately. I would start talking to him telepathically to the entity,
wow.
and I'll say, "Nope, you're not gonna have what you want."
They're
And
loose speed
yeah,
today.
yeah, yeah. I'll be get out of here. So, anyways, let's talk more about
Yeah.
this book. I really love it because in the back it says that you offer practical tools for recognizing, dealing with, and healing for these traumatic
Yeah.
fool's goal soulmate connections.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
So
so much of that
there
going.
is hope.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of the twin flame circles, like twin flames in ascension, and it might be more in the new age spirituality circles, and maybe they don't even know anything about the aliens. But when you look at a lot of the dynamics of what they're going through, that is really a dysfunctional pattern of it really shows it's like a narcissistic abuse kind of cycle with entity involvement that might activate this obsessive thing, but also could activate the kundalini unnaturally because of an entity that's acting behind someone. So I
Mhm.
don't even know if I wrote it in the Dark Cupid, but I got cases later of people who were in some kind of spirituality circle or a group, and they would go to someone who was a kind of like a psychic, but they would call on their angel guides to bring in their soulmate or their twin flame, and they would do things where they would have a session to call that one in, and you imagine you do this meditation, whatever. But one of the women who I think she was able to perceive this kind of like in a dream like astral situation of seeing the woman who was like the guide to call in the twin flame, and then saw her calling in, but it was actually a Draco. I think it was a Draco that came in, and the Draco was connected to the man who that she thought was her twin flame. And then it was like the woman helped engineer to bring that woman together with the man who was like hosted and run by the Draco. And then that was the false twin flame. And then it turned into this big disaster, horrible energy vampirism kind of thing. So there's some who I think innocently think, "Oh, I'm going to bring in your angel guide so you can have your twin flame," and then it's like, "Nah, it's run by the Dracos or the reptilians or whoever is playing this game." You know?
Yeah, what a sick game. I mean, it impacts everybody's life. I mean, not only ours, but also the whole family. And
Yes.
there's a lot of people that say, let's talk about the marks and all this stuff that comes with all of this. Because I get a lot of people, a lot of my followers, and a lot of people, they message me and they say, Laura, how did you do it? How do you deal with this stuff?
Yeah.
And I came up with something that I used. Somebody told me about using magnets in
Oh.
my bed. So I did a little research. My ex-husband was a firefighter, so he would sleep at the station like 3 or 4 days out of the week. One day he came home, and before he came home, I put magnets in the four corners of my bed,
Yeah.
of our bed, and we went to sleep. The next morning, he jumps out of bed and he says, "What did you do to the bed?" And I'm like,
Really?
"What are you talking about? I didn't tell anybody, nobody. I was the only one that knew what I had done." So I said, What are you talking about?" He said, "Yeah, what did you do to the bed?" And I'm like, "How did he know?" It was the entity that knew what
Really?
I had done. Yeah.
Wow.
And then I said, "Nothing. I didn't do anything." But I did put the magnet.
Did it did it stop it at all, or did it help mitigate against
Oh,
that?
he
Or,
was so mad because he couldn't sleep. He said, "I could not sleep." That's why he
uh,
was so mad. So I think the magnets, the energy of the magnets, it was like a prison for his soul, for him to leave and dream.
oh wow,
He couldn't escape that energetic field.
weird. Well, a
So,
lot
so
of times cats. Have you ever heard the one with people have cats and we call them little reptilian busters? Because a lot
mhm.
of times cats are protective of people and they'll know like before an alien comes, and then they'll be on guard and they'll actually protect them against a reptilian coming in because they hate it. They hate reptilians.
Yeah, I
Cats do.
have. I got myself a cat for me. Well, he came to me. I found him, so he
Yeah.
came to me, and then my daughter has a cat. My son, he doesn't have a cat. He's autistic, but I want to get him a cat, but he doesn't want a cat because he says no, the hair and the peen and all that stuff. So he doesn't want a cat in there in his room. But I do want to get him a cat because I've heard that. I've heard that they are good.
Very aware. Cats are psychic anyway. Cats
Yes.
are.
Yeah, I always see my cat doing this, looking at I don't
Mhm.
know what,
Yeah.
and then I get my infrared camera and I don't see anything. I'm like, where is this thing at? Um, okay, so we talked about there's a way out. How can we get out of this?
Yeah, the thing that really helped me, of course, my master's degree is in counseling psychology, but I learned more about like family systems and relationship dynamics and trauma and codependency and all that stuff. So it seemed to me that the best way to deal with it is to understand trauma And let's say, what's a healthy relationship and what is an unhealthy relationship? And how can we do what's healthy and recover from our trauma through deep, self introspection and working on understanding our emotional triggers and the trauma in the family. And then if the more we can learn about ourselves and lessen the triggers we have, because we resolve those issues, the less likely we'll be as easily targeted and manipulated by these other sources. So it seemed to me like when people are younger, in your family and having kids, they don't have as much of awareness, and there's more chaos and activity for people. So
Mm-hmm.
the more there would be, let's say, relationship chaos and unhealthy relationship dynamics where there wouldn't be communication, there'd be stuck emotions, we'd be mad at each other, and then it would create this just bad energy in the family. And then that bad energy created the chaos that made them more easily manipulated for the aliens to come in and just do stuff. So the more at peace we are with ourselves and that we know ourselves, and also knowing when we know what our trigger is, and we become very perceptive, and we hone our perception so that we know where something's coming from, or if something's trying to hack or access us, let's say in our consciousness, we know right away, and we're able to defend against it because we build our strengths and we work on the trauma histories and these spiritual attachments that are also often associated with trauma. So the more we work on the trauma, the more we can get rid of the spiritual attachments. A lot of times there's demonic, vampiric things. So that helps a lot to reduce the chaos and the unhealthy relationship dynamics. Or let's say an addiction, you work on clearing out an addiction if it's going on in the family or in the relationship. So that's basic, really.
That's basically, and so, but do you think people get addicted to like all the commotion, all the drama, because
Absolutely.
you get addicted to that. I mean, where if you're trying to get where you're calm, you're relaxed, and all this stuff, but then you miss all the drama, like all the love, uh, emotions, and all this stuff. I guess it could get addicted.
Well,
Other
it's the
people are
love
like,
obsession. I mean, here's another thing that in hindsight, I learned that the love obsession really demonstrates, like, if we have an unmet need in our marriage, for example, and we didn't deal with it, and as a result of that unmet need and kind of unhappiness where the bond is not as strong as it should be, then it leaves you vulnerable to when you have a love bite with someone else. It's like the love obsession of the attachment that you so desire, and you like project this desire of obsession on someone else. But when you realize what's going on inside on a deep level, then you can drop the obsession and have the deeper insight of, well, what caused this unmet need to be going on in the first relationship, and what can you do now so that you can actually drop what is unhealthy, because obsessions are actually unhealthy. It means it's you're attracted to this ideal person that seems to be the ideal soulmate, but in reality we're obsessed with an ideal projection. And then when we realize, like what I realized is that the person wasn't healthy for me, who was the love bite setup. And it was actually a classic narcissistic kind of pattern or personality. And then I realized, oh, when I let go of my projection of what I so wanted, right? Then I saw the truth of, well, this wouldn't be healthy, and it's good. Just I was able to let it go, and then the obsession just dissolved over time. And then I realized more that I had to work on. I mean, I had to work on my own trauma issues related to family stuff, but also the alien thing. So
yes.
that's what started like a recovery process.
Yes, because I hear a lot of abductees that they say, Laura, I feel lonely. I
Yeah.
feel alone. I feel, my family doesn't understand me. Nobody understands me.
And
So,
it's set up. Let me tell you, it's set up that way. In
mhm.
hindsight, they set you up so that, let's say you get abducted from childhood, and it might have been going on in your family system for a couple generations, but
Yeah,
mostly
but those generations they don't know what is happening.
it's not okay to talk. It's not okay to talk about the real things that are going on. So there's this loneliness where you can't be the real you, and you have to live this like double life, let's say with a marriage partner that you go into. And
Yeah.
then by the time you figure it out, that relationship that had to be your double, right? You can't be your complete self with, right? because
Yeah.
it wasn't okay to be the real you and talk about it, because you get rejected, you get misdiagnosed, you get, I mean, it's horrible what these people have to go through. So it's
Yeah.
actually set up that way to create the secrecy and the chaos and the lack of human needs being met. If we got our true human needs met, we could speak the truth, would people understand, we wouldn't be falling into so many vulnerabilities of being manipulated or harmed. And then we'd be able to have love for one another despite all the weird stuff. We'd still be able to talk about it and connect and understand. But it's like we weren't allowed to, because you can't talk about that. There's something wrong with you, but there's nothing wrong with you. You know what I mean?
Yes, yes, yes.
Trying to make you think like there's something wrong with you. In reality, there's a lot of people who don't know what the hell's going on, and they don't want to talk about it. And they don't want to disclose the real thing or the whole ball of wax.
And I think that what helped me a lot is understanding myself, getting to know myself. I don't go to groups, but it would be great to have groups in every single place where there's been, like in California, when you lived over here, you had that group. I
Yeah.
don't, is there any groups anymore?
Well, there were. I know that a gal in LA had them, and Barbara Lamb, and most of them are now online. Like Misha Johnson has
Yeah, Mr.
several
John.
that are through like Facebook groups. So I
Yes.
know that there's a lot, but the only as a quote as a therapist, here I am talking about, my only caution is when we do support groups, we want to make sure that they're facilitated by someone who can be mature enough so that when issues come up that we need really real support with, that is
Yes.
a trauma related thing, that we don't get sucked into a narrative that would be a bypass. And the bypass would be something like, I know people, it's like channeling groups, for example. They get into maybe a new age spin channeling group where instead of focusing on let's just deal with the support and the trauma issues and what's going on, but then they go into these side,
Mhm.
trips that are bypasses, which are deliberate, by the way. It's a mind control
Yeah,
tactic.
you sidetracked. Yeah, you sidetracked from
So you have to
the
be
real
careful.
reason why you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Misha Johnston. I met her in Laughlin, and I've interviewed her, and she lives right here in Vegas. She's your friend. You were mentioning me to me,
Yeah.
and she's great. I've been in her groups, and she is really great.
Well, that's
She
good.
really helps people, and I really like it because there's a lot of people that I'm thinking it's kind of like when Barbara, when uh,
Barbara Boss.
yourself,
Yeah.
yeah, and Carla and everybody. I think she's really doing a good job.
Oh, she was. She was amazing. And,
Yeah.
I just feel like so blessed, because it's actually hard to find someone like that where they take time out to talk with you on the phone and really
Hmm.
become your friend and really get deeper insights for, you really need to talk about this stuff actually a lot more than I think many of us can. And
Hmm.
I'm just so grateful that I had that opportunity when I did. So the more people know, the more we can talk and share. But when there's unresolved trauma, oftentimes our triggers of trauma that are still in amnesia, a lot of times, especially with abductions, we can hurt one another with our personality issues and quirks because of the unresolved trauma and what happens in maybe mind control. So
Hmm.
that's the only thing that we have to watch, that we don't hurt one another because of our own unresolved stuff that we haven't really, been able to do a deeper dive on.
Yeah, but it's so hard though because you have that mind control, you have all this interference, so it's hard. I mean, you might be in the right path, but it is so hard when you're being controlled, when you're being
Oh, and
interfered.
they're being, targeted too, because
Right. Yeah,
that's part
exactly.
of yeah, I mean, that's part of the scheme. When we realized a lot of this was actually set up and created to be what it was, until, we became old enough to, like, have enough time to yourself to do, like, long meditation retreats and, deep therapy without, let's say, a primary relationship that was dysfunctional, that
Hmm.
opened up, like, all your triggers. So it takes some time alone to really undo and get to know yourself, and then find healthy people. So it's almost like, if somebody goes into AA, for example, like, and they have a drink and they want to quit drinking, for example. If you're a newbie who hasn't only been sober, for a short while, and then others in the group could be at different places of their recovery. So
Hmm.
it's good, like if you could have, let's say, a sponsor who's been sober for years, so they know all the different stages that you go through, so that the person who comes in, they're always going to have somebody who's wiser than themselves, so that they get good counsel, instead of going to a person in the group who's still like hasn't really dealt with their stuff, and then they end up being like a disaster, or like a
Hmm.
like I could say an example, but I knew, let's say, a close family member who would go to these groups, AA, and some of the other people who would come in, they were like dangerous predators. So
Hmm.
she met a dangerous predator as a boyfriend who was basically kind of looking to predate upon vulnerable women, and within an AA thing. So you have to be careful, like who you immediately will want to have a close connection with, who's at an AA meeting, unless they've done their recovery work, because it could throw and pull you down. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
what's happening right now, it's precisely that. There's groups, the spiritual groups, where they're looking for these people that are psychic. They have all these things, and then they set them apart, and they place them in a room or anywhere where they're at, and they have them there like 2 3 days, and it's really dangerous. Like
oh,
people need to like know about this stuff. Where if you go into, let's say, a retreat, a spiritual retreat, make sure you know who you're going with,
oh
and
yeah, yeah.
always
I've
pay
heard,
attention, because
yeah.
these things can happen. It's
Well, I've
really
heard of
dangerous.
people getting abducted during certain spiritual retreats, because
Yeah,
the spiritual head honcho guru knows exactly what they are on very high levels, and then utilize them, and they get
yeah,
abducted, and they have these, they're like, what the hell happened? I thought I was on a spiritual retreat. It's like, no, there was an abduction with a high level guru who's like using them, utilizing them.
yeah. That's what's happening. I've been told that that's been happening. It's been happening to quite a few people, where
Yeah.
they say, "Yeah, I went to the spiritual retreat, and then they set me aside into another room, myself and other people, like three other people or four people,
Really?
and they were just asking us questions. They were doing all this stuff.
Oh,
They were separated from the group." So I'm like, "Oh, yeah." So this is happening.
yeah,
Where
lots of
they're
people want
saying,
to recruit
"Okay,
them.
they're saying it's a good spiritual retreat, but it's not for anything good. It's for other things that they're not telling you."
Yeah, and
So
oftentimes too, like, because I did a lot of Buddhist retreats at the time, years ago, but even though, like, somebody would be a very good meditation teacher and think, quote, "they're enlightened," then when it would come to the weird weird alien stuff or the MyLabby stuff, they didn't really have the qualifications to understand how to really help someone heal. And I know that Randy Kramer talked about this in his early interviews, where he went through hell for years, looking for help to get through this stuff. And I've known many, MyLabby people who they couldn't get the help they needed, unfortunately, because not enough people understand. Even high level spiritual lamas and gurus or whatever, some of them did help, but most of them just didn't have a clue and be like, sorry, you know?
yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to get. Like having this type of podcast, I'm trying to get people to see like all kinds of things, like the good, bad, and ugly. You know,
Yeah.
see everything from for what it is, and just be careful on what you do, who you go with, who you trust, because
Yeah.
it's really scary out there. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to protect yourself. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah. You have to have good
quite
counsel.
rarely,
Yeah.
yeah, they're just waking up to this all these experiences, and we've been here for a long time, since, I mean, since we remember, since we were little. Um, have you been abducted?
Yeah. Although I didn't remember a lot, and I wasn't one of those people who had a great deal of memory, but I do know it happened in early childhood, and it extended until, probably till after my divorce, but I don't have them anymore, because I've
Hmm.
done a lot of work, and I've done a lot of Christian, like deliverance,
Yeah.
um, breaking curses and oaths and that kind of thing really helped. And
Wow.
just getting, like, the complex trauma recovery is probably the most important. And then being spiritually clean, so that those open doorways don't affect you. Like, even if somebody's like in your home, or it could be like an apartment building where you're like, you live next door to somebody who's like got bad energy. A lot of
Yeah.
times that could affect you, where you can have stuff happen to you. So keeping things clean and yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe we can have a live podcast and we can answer the people in the audience, answer their questions, because I have a lot of followers that have so many questions and they want to know if they can get rid of any of this stuff. Some people, they just want to know more about their experience, what's happening. And I think that it'll be a good opportunity for them to ask you all these questions. I hope you can come and
A lot
have
of
a.
people are really aware now. I mean, there's so much out there now that wasn't there 20 years ago or 30 years ago. But
Mhm.
I think it's also more insidious, though, in some ways, like when someone is raised as an abductee. I think nowadays, when you look at some of the secret space people, or that they're more insidious in their ability to really see it as clearly with respect to physical evidence and missing time and trauma. Sometimes it's much more insidious, so it makes it harder to notice in some ways.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. But we're more aware though. When it's happening, we're kind of like, okay, we know what's going on. Like we've been talking about it and they've been talking about it so much that now you're like, oh, okay, so this is what's happening. And then you start learning more things and more tools to, so it won't affect you in your physical real life here.
Yeah, I have a friend who I just wanted to say a note because I'm hoping to hear more about it. A friend in Finland who's studying feng shui, which is a Taoist feng shui, but
Mhm.
seeing that there are correlations between abduction sites in their home, like a portal, and certain feng shui orientations of their home, and it's consistent. So that, and then it begs the question: are they being led to physical locations where they live, where they know they can have an easy access because the feng shui is arranged in such a way it creates an interdimensional portal or
Mhm.
easy
Mhm.
access. So
Mhm.
there's something maybe to that. So
Yeah.
that's yet to be discovered a little bit more. So
Yes. So, what experience has impacted you the most?
oh,
All
impact.
your research.
No,
Mm-hmm.
probably Love Bite for sure because that opened up. It actually opened up in me a very strong, not just love and realization that I was projecting a desire on someone and realizing that projected image was an illusion of what I really needed, and then being able to know myself more, to let go of obsession, which really, it showed me what was missing in my life, but also much more what was going on in levels that I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And then it led me to some really wonderful people in my life, like Barbara Bartholick.
Yeah.
So, and it led me really to working on my own recovery with my issues that I went into from my childhood into my marriage. So, had not that happened, I might still be in a dysfunctional relationship and not doing well. I mean, I might have died because that kind of long-term trauma and being, let's say, in a narcissistic abuse relationship can kill you over time or destroy your health. So
Mm-hmm.
it woke me up. A lot of people say, well, gosh, even though this was not a good experience, it did wake me up to so many more things going on in life. And it forced me to have to look at myself
Yes.
and my
Yes. I
history.
think so. I think it's the same for me.
Yeah.
Where I woke up and said, "What's going on?" And then you start researching, and I think I agree with you. I agree mostly with you. Where can people find you?
My website is evelorgen.com
Eve
or
Lorgen.
alienlovebite.com. And then I have a Telegram group that's Alien Love Bite, real simple. And I'm only on like Twitter, what do you call it, X, and LinkedIn. My Facebook account's locked out. So really, email is actually the best way to get in touch with me, or the message on my website
Okay.
is also a way to get in touch with me. So
Right. I'll put all that information on the little box in this video, so people that want to reach out to you. And what is it that you do? How do you help people? You're a professional therapist.
mhm.
So
Yeah.
what kind of help can they get?
Well, I just, listen to what they have to say, and then we
Mm,
create a strategy based on what's really important for them, how to get more clear on what's going on for them, and if they want to do trauma recovery. It's really about trauma recovery and getting healthier and cleaner and maybe in your spiritual life so that some of these interference factors can be mitigated against with certain practices. But I think therapy, just having someone to talk to so that you don't have to be so isolated in this experience, because it's very isolating.
Oh,
So
yes.
just talking about it and getting to know more and more
Mhm.
about, sometimes they don't think something is connected to their experience. And then when I hear them or see it in the questionnaire, I'm like, oh, well, this is connected. And they had no idea. So
Yes.
it's good just to get information to see, well, what's really connected in your life and in your family history that's really related to this phenomena, but that is not being really disclosed in the, I don't know, the UFO disclosure circles. I think they get focused on, like what's happening in the secret space program and what's happening with these ETs and where they're from. But we need to look at other connecting factors that show, how they have spiritual authority and access to us, and how
Yes.
we can stop that authority and control by taking our control and our spiritual authority back. So a
Mhm.
lot of times those kind of things I think are really important, and for our relationships. So that,
Yes.
because we want healthy relationships. We don't need unhealthy ones, and we need to like finally say no. Like no to narcissistic abuse, no to manipulation, no to being treated like you're a worthless piece of blankety blank 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 just
Yeah.
because you've had abductions or something. It's like we need to be able to tell the truth and be okay with just being who we are. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
yeah.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful interview. I really loved it, and I hope to see you soon.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you. Have a
All
good evening.
right.
Thank you. Let me see. There it is.
I don't know you know how to do this.